Karen just texted me, hello.
Hello, it's 3. Where's my invite?
Professionalism. Just because I'm your cousin.
Where you be?
Where you be at?
Man, I went to Cinderella supermarket today.
Cinderella.
Cinderella.
Cinderella,
Oh, okay.
not Cinderella.
It didn't turn into a pumpkin at midnight.
No.
Hello.
What's up, Karen?
Hello.
Oh wow, so nice seeing that window from the inside. I saw it from the outside perspective when you were fishing stuff down the window.
All right, ready? Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your hair down. All right, you're good. Wait, be careful of the AC.
Okay, guys, we're live in 3, 2, 1, action.
It's the Redonkulous Podcast, starring Annie and Jeff and my coolest guy in the world, whose name is James. It's Redonkulous.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Redonkulouspodcast. Today we have a very, very special guest. We have a returning guest, and we're doing a very special segment. Shout out to Professor Herzog's writing intensive class. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that's very, very dear to me, well, all of us. It includes all of us, and it's something that we've been thinking about a lot, especially during this pandemic. So today we're going to be talking about the COVID-19 impact on xenophobia towards Asians. This topic was brought by a former guest. Karen is back on the show. So without further ado, please help me welcome Karen.
Hello.
Hey, Karen. Welcome back.
Thank
Hello.
you.
We remember you from season 1,
Mm.
but tell us a little bit more about what we're going to be discussing today and what made you decide to make this archetype pitch for your final project.
This is my last senior project before graduation, and it was supposed to be an in-person project where we discussed it in class and try to incorporate everyone's project together. But because of COVID-19, we had to do our own individual projects, and my professor, she wanted some students that didn't start yet to incorporate how like coronavirus impacted our school year and / impact the people in the world. There's been a new spotlight in like Asian racism that hasn't been around in like a little bit. Like it's always been around, but it hasn't been this profiled since like a long time. And it's crazy to see how much racism is going on in the world right now because of this one virus.
So basically you started late, so you have to do COVID now.
No, I didn't start late. I just started appropriately, but then she's like, if you didn't complete your project yet, can you incorporate it? And I said, okay.
Cool.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
When you brought this topic
Nice.
up, I thought it was very interested. I jumped on right away. I said, yeah, sure. This is something I definitely want to talk about. Like you said, it's been present, but it's never been so blatant. You know, it's never been
Yeah.
so out in the open. You wonder, oh my goodness, I was born and raised in New York. What the heck is this? Am I in the United States? Some of the stuff that we're hearing is crazy, to say the least.
Yeah. At least like something once a week on the news about Asian racism.
Yeah, I feel like every day it's like a new Next Shark post about like someone getting hurt or like an incident happening. It's like every day, it's always on my feed.
Shout out to Next Shark. They're doing a really good job. I think they're one of the news outlets that's been actively reporting on Asian Americans. First came across the website, I was highly skeptical. I was like, is this true? You know, is some of this stuff validated? Because some of the stuff seems pretty out there.
What's great about Next Shark is like because they've been posting about it, not only do they post about it, but they actually help track down like the police to help the case more, and they bring more attention to it. So when you bring more attention to it, people do something. And like one of the first incidents that happened, I remember, was like this guy that got hurt because he was out collecting cans, even though people were being warned about coronavirus. He was still collecting cans and he got beaten up. So because Next Shark posted about it, they created a GoFundMe and raised him like, I think like so much money. I don't know the exact estimate, but they raised him like a lot of money. And
All
it's
right, get me on
crazy.
Next Shark, man.
This recent coronavirus has made you realize like how it's affected you personally, because we grew up in New York, and it's like I grew up where I was always surrounded by a bunch of different race. I was in a middle school was like predominantly Black people or African American people. So I never thought like it was such a big deal because a lot of my friends were Black and we all hung out the same. We went to the pizza shop together. We went home together after school. They used to bring me around Jamaica Avenue, and it was never like a weird thing. It was never like out of the ordinary. I remember one time in like middle school when I was in art class, and then I think we had like a free period where we were just messing around and waiting for our next class. So we weren't doing anything, and then we were in the front of the class, and I was waiting for my teacher to let us out and go to our next class. But then when I was waiting, a couple of my friends, they were like playing around with markers, and then they grabbed like a yellow marker and they opened it and then they drew it on my arm, and they were like, haha, look, you can't even see it, blends right in. And then I just laughed at them. I was like, oh, ha ha ha. But then now thinking about it back to, I'm like, wait, that wasn't okay. Like, that's kind of racist. But I never thought of it.
Marker and then draw it on the
No, there was the marker. I was like, if you draw on your skin, it blends in. It's yellow. It blends into everyone's skin in it. But now thinking back, I'm like, that probably was like low key not okay.
Yeah, so let's break this down. So first of all, the term xenophobia means fear and hatred of strangers or foreigners or of anything that is strange or foreign. Like what Karen just mentioned, some of them is just from misunderstanding. A lot of it is from racism, but deep down in the root, I feel like a big portion of there's a sense of fear. A lot of kids that you know, maybe they don't understand this, and then they're hearing stuff on the news or they're hearing things from their parents. They don't know how to process it. I'm not defending anyone, but they go out and then you see all this stuff happening, you know, 14, 15-year-olds picking on Asian Americans. And it's really, really sad to see.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, when this all first like started, I had a few customers that were a little bit, I guess, I don't know how you say it, kind of scared or kind of, you know, they give me like weird looks, and then
And you're Korean.
right. But I mean, they don't know the difference between Korean, Chinese, Taiwanese, you know, just all Asians look alike, I guess, in their perspective. But a few of my customers, you know, they're kind of a little racist, but I think it stemmed from, you know, the media and from them not knowing all the facts or everything going on, you know, and like you said, it came from, you know, a lot of fear, blew up, and there's more information out there. In my perspective, from my clients, from my interactions, they're not racist or giving you looks or anything like that, you know.
not that you know of.
Yeah.
So I want to share this story, and obviously I'm not going to name the person, but there's a close friend of ours. We know him very well. He's a nurse and he works in the city. He has an electric skateboard. Those of us who know him now definitely know him.
You narrowed it down.
Yeah, his hospital put him up in a hotel in the city. Obviously, he's respecting social distancing, wearing all the proper PPE, the mask and everything. When he's going to and from the hotel from work, he came across a group of kids. He said probably not even older than high school, but these group of kids were trying to crowd him. And when he was boosted boarding through, they started chasing him. Now, that's crazy. And this is in the middle of Manhattan, you know, near Times Square. So
Times Square, right?
when I heard about this, I was like, what the heck? You know, imagine like he wasn't on an electric skateboard, if he was just on a manual skateboard and you couldn't get away from these guys, like what could have happened? And this is New York. We're not talking about like Texas or something. I mean, no offense to Texas, but there's some crazy stuff going on down there. Yo.
Yeah. I always thought
don't go to the Sam's Club, man. In Texas, do not go there.
I always thought living in New York, you didn't really have to worry about racism as much because it's so diverse, especially in Queens. But I did experience racism when I was in the South. I was in North Carolina. I was in an airport with my friends who were all Asian. We're all like Asian women. And we were traveling. We were going to a bachelorette. And the guy at the plane door, he was like a security. And he was like, y'all speak good English? I was like, what? I was like caught off guard. But I never experienced racism other than that.
I mean, I wouldn't even think that doesn't even qualify as racism. That's just kind of like
prejudging. Like he didn't think
being ignorant.
He didn't think that we spoke English just because from the way we look.
Yeah, because that happens a lot. I feel like whenever I'm in like Manhattan or LIC, or if I'm walking around, and whenever I speak out loud in public, I always like when I see someone that's like not Asian kind of in a way, like, but whenever they walk by, I honestly feel like they're like, oh wow, she speaks really good English. Because whenever I start talking in English, I see people look at me like, it's kind of like, should I not be saying English? Like, they just seem so surprised.
Similar thing happened to me in Florida too when I was in high school. And it's like we were like in like a suburban area, and then there was just like a group of Asians, hanging out, and people would just give like weird looks at us. I guess they're not used to it, and just give us weird, dirty looks.
I'm not surprised. All these people that you mentioned, they're probably the same people that's injecting bleach into themselves.
I mean, bleach is.
Bleach. Yeah.
Oh God. What's the
The
title?
one with Ahmed Arbery.
Yes, I got it.
So that has nothing to do with Asian Americans in general, but it's just like there's this racial divide. When we're talking about this, I was reading this article. It's from the Atlantic. Wait, scrolling too fast. Go up.
Oh, okay.
All right. So the title: Coronavirus was an emergency until Trump found out who was dying. This is a very long article, but super interesting, and they dive into something called a social contract and something called a racial contract. This was shared by my friend Joanne on Facebook, and I clicked on it last night. I couldn't sleep, and then I was just reading through it. And they were talking about how, yes, because of this pandemic, there is a social contract to kind of be nice to your neighbor, all of that. And then there's something called a racial contract where there's some stuff that we don't even hear about. So this guy in Georgia, Brunswick, Georgia, was running through, I guess it's a white community or white area in Brunswick, Georgia. He's 24, 25 years old. This retired police officer, 60-something years old, grabbed his son, was like, let's go, grab the gun, and chased him down, blocked his way, and then proceeded to gun him down. And this is all caught on camera. This happened in February, yet there was no legal action. Nothing was being done until this past week on Tuesday when this video went online. Now, this is crazy. That same day that the video went online, these guys get arrested. It doesn't take, it's not rocket science to put, it's not rocket science to put two and two together, because there's a lot of public outcry, public outlash on this particular subject. This just goes to show you that, yeah, even though we're all Americans, not all Americans are equal. There is a racial divide. And it's something that either we don't talk enough about, or people just don't, it's easier to just kind of close your eyes or look the other way. And this actually spills over to all minorities, not just Asian Americans.
Yeah, I saw the brief post I saw about it. It was actually so funny because it actually ended up becoming an argument between my friend who posted it and some random Instagram who commented on it. And she was talking about what the case with Aubrey, and then someone felt like they wanted to comment and be like, oh, it's so funny how you want to stand up for this guy who is African American, and you want to talk about how it's not fair that he got killed, but isn't it his people that's hurting your people now? And she was like, I don't understand why I can't advocate for both. We're all minorities. We all want to advocate for him and our people. And then she was like, you're going to stand up for people who's coming against your people, so you're disrespecting your Asian community. She's like, I'm not disrespecting anyone. I'm just putting attention on both situations. Asians are getting picked on right now, but so his case is still important. It's okay to stand up for both parties, but it's like, she just like, this random person just felt like they wanted to weigh in and be like, oh, you can't be talking for both sides.
So what I could say about that, don't do that, okay? You're focusing on the wrong thing. I'm not trying to call anyone stupid or call anyone dumb, but you're distracting from the big picture. What Karen mentioned, why can't you be supportive of another minority group? Like, there's no rules against that. It doesn't mean that you're going against being Asian or being against Asian communities.
Right.
It doesn't make sense at all.
I mean, the thing is, you want to attack racism. It doesn't matter, what color you are.
There is this podcast that I've been recently listening to. It's not for everyone. I'll say that. It's a pretty political podcast. It's called Escape from Plan A. It's a magazine created by Asian Americans in New York. They also have a podcast. What I really love about listening to this is that they talk about the Asian American identity. And it doesn't mean just being Chinese American or Filipino American, Korean American. If you're Asian American, you are part of the same community. And you should work together, band together, and use that maybe as a political identity or even just your identity. You're Asian American. They also talk about some stuff like, I'm sure Karen wants to talk about this. They've been dumping on Andrew Yang recently regarding what he said about coronavirus, something about like just be more American or try to be more American.
To like show more patriotism. His statement that came out was just like, oh, if you want people to stop picking on you per se, or if you want the racism towards Asian community to stop, show them that you're American, you know, like show more patriotism, show that you love our country, show them that you are part of this country, that you belong here too. And people kind of like, I don't know if some people misconstrued it and took it as in like, oh, so what do you want me to do? Wave a flag and barbecue in my backyard and show people that I belong here by doing that? And he came out with a retraction that said like, oh, I didn't mean it that way, but I also meant just like show them that we are American too. But I guess he like, because he has such a big following and because he was such a presidential candidate that a lot of people were rooting for, especially being that a lot of his factors when he was running for president was focused on Asian community. He didn't really do much to help us during this like specific time with the racism going on. And it just sucks because he was such a big part of that protest when he was running for president. And it seems like right now he's not really doing his part to help us out.
That was a huge part. A lot of people asked him about being Asian American. He always talked about my immigrant parents. I remember that. And that was one of the reasons why I admired him so much. I was like, dude, he's using it as a strength. You know, people were trying to like, you know, chip at him. And then he was just like, no, I'm proud to be Asian American. I'm proud my parents were immigrants. And you're right. It kind of sucks to see him saying what he said.
Yeah. Maybe he chose the wrong words when he was just explaining it.
I honestly do see that. I feel like when he came out with his like, not apology statement, but when he came out and said that you guys mistook what I said and kind of like twisted it, I do see that he was trying to just be like, oh, show them that you are American too. But I guess what people thought was, with someone with such a big voice in the world, you could have like said more than just be like, be more American. Like he could have done something about it.
On a side note, when Andrew Yang came out with Childish Gambino and they had that merch, I was like, whoa, this is cool. This is like two worlds colliding. I would never have imagined that to happen.
That was crazy.
And that merch sold for so much money.
Just because he signed it.
Couldn't afford it.
So crazy.
Anyway, going back to your point, like even with that, you know, Donald Glover and then him having a lot of celebrities kind of jumping on and pushing for him at the time when he was running for president, it also goes back to the point. It shows that just because you're in a different community doesn't mean that you cannot still support each other. So that was really, really cool and really fun to see as well.
Yeah,
while it lasted.
He got like some backlash from having a Childish Gambino like supporting him. I'm sure Childish Gambino got a lot of backlash saying like, oh, why are you supporting him? Like blah, blah, blah. He's not doing, because a lot of the community in the African American areas were saying how like his plan doesn't help them to say. But when he came out with Childish Gambino, everyone was like, oh, but like, is he really helping our community? And that really helped people to see like, oh, he is helping all communities, not just the Asian, targeting the Asian communities, helping them. So that really like opened a lot of people's eyes to see that like his campaign was bigger.
Could have helped people, so many people from injecting bleach.
Helping in
Okay, so I want to talk about VOA News. Can you pull that up? Not the Third Coast Review, the VOA News.
VOA, got it.
All right, this is an article from June of last year, 2019. It talks about the evolution of Chinese and Asian faces in Hollywood by Elizabeth Lee.
Oh, I know this article. I used it in my pitch.
Now, one thing that's really cool about this, recently you've been seeing a lot of stuff such as like Crazy Rich Asians, Kim's Convenience on Netflix, all these shows that have been representing Asian Americans or Asians more in Hollywood. People who don't really follow the news or even follow the media, I'm not someone that really follows the news that much. We see a lot and we absorb a lot from different medias, different forms of medias. And part of that is television and movies. Hollywood have a big say in terms of forming society and how people view others. Let's talk about how they portrayed Asian Americans and how it has changed over the years.
Growing up, it wasn't that present. Even me being so young, growing up, I didn't see a lot of movies or characters. Maybe like one cartoon like Mulan growing up as an Asian like character. But growing up, I didn't really see that present until like I think my freshman year of college, when Fresh Out the Boat came out. I started seeing more like Asian Americans like performing on TV. And then also like when Nihiga blew up so big, like he was like one of the top YouTubers. He was such a big aspect to YouTube. And then I was just like, oh, there's more people like making it big around here. Michelle Phan, so many people, and they're Asian, and it's crazy. And it's like, I was like, okay, so we're starting to get there. But then it also seems like every time, like, kind of like Hollywood takes 2 steps, they take 1 back. Because, like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Because, like, it seems like they get that they need to do more in that community, but then it also seems like they're still hesitant. To, like,
I love
now.
Eddie Huang in Fresh Off the Boat, man. He also has a law degree. Super smart guy, a very successful restaurateur. He has Bauhaus in New York, and currently it's closed. I followed up on him. He's currently in Taiwan now. He's going to be chilling until at least July. He's not going to be coming back during all this crap. So going back to the Asians in media. Growing up, I've heard there were so many jokes that were made about being Asian, and a lot of people talk about Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was a big figure when I was growing up. They talked about, whoa, what are you gonna do? Be careful! Oh my goodness, they're gonna kick your ass, or they're gonna do some Chinese kung fu on you.
Or
I
Jackie
remember
Chan.
There's a story I want to share. I didn't think about this before this episode, actually. I just thought about it right now. In high school, I really liked playing handball. And in high school, I wasn't as chunky as I am now. I was a lot scrawnier. I was a lot skinnier. Maybe 2 or 3 of us Asian kids playing near Parsons Boulevard. And that area it's mixed, but that area, I would say there's a lot of like African Americans as well, and majority of the people in that park were African Americans, at least on that day. So we're playing handball there, and these kids that were playing basketball were minding our own business. We're there for maybe an hour and a half, no problems. And right when we were about to leave, this group of kids came by, 2 or 3 of them, messing with us, like, trying to pick on us and stuff. At that moment, my mom called me. I picked up my phone and I started speaking in Chinese. And one of the guys was leaving, and then he was touching the other guy on the arm. He's like, yo, he's calling his homeboys, man. You don't want to get beat up. Let's go. And they just left us alone afterwards. I was just like, oh, Mom. Happy Mother's Day, by the way. You probably saved my life at that time. At least that's how I felt. And thank you, Mr. Bruce Lee. Thank you very much.
I have a similar story like that, but I wasn't as fortunate as you. Well, in a way, I was fortunate. In a way.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're familiar with the park near 164th Street.
Imagine it was the same park that we went to.
Yeah. The park we played handball in back in the day. Near
your old house.
Yeah. Oh yeah, near Key Food. Yes.
Okay.
So I think it was like junior high school. I was on my way to the park, and then there's like a deli right in front of there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a group of maybe junior high schoolers, maybe like 4 or 5 of them, and I'm on my way to the park, and these guys just kind of like surround me, and they're like, oh, show us your kung fu. I'm like, kung fu? I don't know kung fu.
Oh God.
And then and then one guy goes behind me, and the bear locks me, and then he bear locks me, and then throws me on the floor, and then like 4 or 5 of them just start kicking me.
Get out!
What?
I guess some of the older guys that I played handball with at the park, they saw it and they came running out, and then those kids just ran away. Yeah, I wasn't hurt or anything that bad.
That
Yeah,
was
it
in
was
junior high.
Yeah, I was in
That's
junior high.
crazy.
Why didn't you tell
Damn.
me that? If I had known that, I would never have gone to that park with you. I went to that park with you multiple times, James.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
Here and there, I think all of us have experienced some form of racism, but it hasn't been so outspoken as it is now.
Social media, YouTube, people to spread the news,
Yeah, the
spread
media
information.
definitely magnifies everything. Like everybody has access to so much information and so quickly.
Yeah, truthfully, I feel like if I didn't follow Next Track, I probably wouldn't have known about every single incident, but it has been blowing up a lot. But I also think it helps that I follow Next Track, so I see like all the articles they post and everything they're talking about, and it just like amplifies it a lot more.
Yeah, and I really like Facebook and Instagram too. I mean, you can really see like personal people's experiences,
Mm-hmm.
photos and videos. Yeah, I really like social media for people's personal experiences.
I was talking to my sister the other day and I said, I feel like I haven't seen this type of stuff happen when we were kids. But she was like, yeah, when we were kids, everything is like world peace. I was like, I don't think it was world peace.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I told her too. She said the only thing that happened when she was growing up was maybe the Cold War with Russia. I was just like, yeah, we've been super sheltered, especially being in New York, growing up in New York. We were super sheltered. Doesn't mean that it wasn't happening. We just weren't aware of it.
Well, there
Yeah.
was also no social media at the time.
True.
Yes.
Mm.
Good point.
I think it does. Yeah, I think it doesn't help that like majority of us grew up in New York, so we don't see it or we're not exposed to it. Because I definitely know that like 2 years ago, when we had like our family trip to Poconos, that was like probably one of the not first, but one of the times that really stuck in my mind. That I was like, wow, people outside of like Queens or outside of New York is like they're super like they're exposed to their own people. So seeing us, they're definitely like, who are these people? They're not like exposed to us as much. And it's
True.
crazy because like even if Pennsylvania is not that far from New York, it's just so crazy how two different worlds it could be.
Yep, 100%.
Don't have much experience, with a lot of people.
Let's talk a little bit about the yellow peril. Karen, you referenced this. With all of this history came a perception of the Chinese as the yellow peril, the sinister Chinese, the Chinese that you couldn't trust, and that resulted in the character called Fu Manchu. Fu Manchu, a villain who wants to destroy the Western world, ended up on the big screen and in a television series. Especially in the 1920s, during this time, Asian Americans, not Asian Americans, Asians in general, were not portrayed positively. There was a lot of racial tensions back then. Even now, there's a lot of racial tensions right now. But back then, I think there was this perpetuation. I don't even want to say propaganda. Propaganda might not even be the right word in this context. But what they're portraying on the big screen was that, oh my goodness, they're not like us. It's them. And that kind of divided a lot of people. Now, these you don't really see characters like Fu Manchu nowadays on the big screen. There's even like that villain in Iron Man. I forgot his name. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? Ben Kingston was the guy that got casted. Oh, come on, guys. Come on, guys. It was a super stereotypical character, and they brought it. Obviously, they had to change him to adapt him to the big screen. He was the leader of the 10 Rings. Come on, guys. Nothing.
I don't really watch Iron Man.
Oh my goodness. All right.
Mandarin?
The Mandarin. Yes, the character is called the Mandarin. Okay, so going back to it, what do you guys think? Do you think it's nice that now we're seeing stuff like Crazy Rich Asians on the screen?
Yeah. In the beginning, it was a lot of Asian men portrayed as like kung fu fighters, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee. But now, like movies like Crazy Rich Asians, you see them in a different light, like as not just like these kung fu fighters. They're like real, actual people. Yeah, Crazy Rich Asians was a really big deal when it came out. And did you guys all watch it?
Yeah.
No.
James.
I watched Parasite though.
It's just called Parasite. No, the
Yeah, it was a fictional movie, but I read all the books and
Oh wow.
it was a great movie. I thought I really enjoyed it.
there are also a lot of pros and cons for Crazy Rich Asians. Let's talk about the pros
Yeah.
first. The pros, like Annie said, you get to see Asians in a different light. You know, we don't all know kung fu, okay? And we're not all good at math, okay? We're not all bad drivers. Some of us are, but not all of us. Crazy Rich Asians portrayed us in a different light, which is good. The con side, the bad side, though, of Crazy Rich Asians is just we're not all crazy rich either. So it's kind of like the opposite end of the spectrum. I think it's good, but at the same time, it's also not a realistic
Yeah, it's
portrayal.
fictional. Like,
Yeah.
it's not real, but it's different and it was cool. Oh, another movie that I wanted to mention was like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like when people are like fighting in the air.
That's definitely real. That happens.
Definitely. I know when the movie first came out, I have a lot of friends on social media who are very vocal. So they like to like post their opinions and just to like talk about it, which I like because I like reading about it. And I know that like Crazy Rich Asians was supposed to get like a crazy amount of like love and support from the Asian community, but being Asian herself, she wrote about the movie and she wrote that she personally did not like it at all. She wasn't as hyped about it. She, even though it's an all Asian cast, big move in Hollywood, she just didn't like the movie. She didn't like the message. She didn't like a lot of things, and she wasn't trying to like downplay this moment, but she was just saying like, I guess from her perspective, she was saying for such a big moment in Hollywood, the movie could have had more meaning or purpose for like her. She just didn't see it, and like she didn't like that how like they took such a like big step in Hollywood, but they didn't really bring anything forward with it. It was kind of just like a love story.
So
I mean, everyone has their own opinion. I personally, I like the movie, but also the movie itself was very predictable because it's kind of like one of those movies that you already know what's going to happen at the end, because I've seen those movies from like for so many different versions of it already.
does
Like
that
there are
mean you're
different
not going to watch part 2 and part 3?
I mean, I'm excited to watch part 2 because I do like a lot of the movie was good. I liked a lot of the parts of it. Just the ending, I don't know. I guess because they do have to make it into a love story, it was very played out. Like the story itself was played out. I feel like a lot of scenes were just like, oh, you kind of knew like, oh, he was gonna get on the plane and get hurt. That was kind of like, that was predictable.
Oh
But
yeah,
like,
you've seen that in that Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock movie too, where he gets
yeah,
on the
you
plane.
see it played out so many times
Yeah.
in Hollywood.
It's a very predictable rom-com, but it's very entertaining.
I'm
Yeah,
excited for part 2 only because Harry Shum Jr. is in it. I was a big Glee fan back in the day, so I'm excited for that.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for the scene he has with her, I guess, because her part in the movie was my favorite. The way she like, I guess everyone would assume that like she would let the guy kind of just like talk down to her and then they divorce, whatever. But in the movie, they really made her like, I guess you'd explain it because James didn't watch it. In the movie, after finding out her husband cheated on her and stuff, she was like, "Oh, I can't help you be a man. That's something like you have to do on your own. You can't blame me for that you don't feel like you're a man." And I really like that part because it's like she really like spoke for herself.
Be a man.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do
Do
the right thing.
Mulan is supposed to come out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mulan.
nice.
I want to see Mulan. Hopefully, it's a good movie. Hopefully, fingers
At
crossed.
least she's a woman with like kung fu powers.
At least she's a woman. Imagine that they come out and then they portray Mulan as a non-Asian male. That'd be awesome.
That'd be so messed up.
My experience for Crazy Rich Asians, I went in, I was mad. I did not want to see that movie. Annie dragged me to go see it.
Excuse me.
She did, and I was not looking forward to it. I was pleasantly surprised. When I watched the movie, yes, it was predictable. Yes, there was a lot of tropes that you could have seen coming. But I really enjoyed it. I was like, whoa, I was not expecting this. Yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to part 2 and part 3 when and if it comes out. Karen,
Do we-
I know you prepped very extensively for Two Truths, One Lie.
2 truths, 1 lie.
Super extensively.
Yes, super
Oh, nice.
extensively.
Now I feel like it was harder because like being family, I feel like it was some of it was like you're gonna call me out like, oh no, that's not true.
I feel like I'm gonna get it wrong. I might be the one. They'll get it right, and I'm gonna be
I
the one.
thought this
making it
one
wrong.
through. I kind of like try to like make it a little bit more
Okay,
harder.
sure.
First one, when I was younger, I loved ballet and I wanted to be a ballerina and I really wanted to like take ballet classes and I was super into it. Number 2, I'm allergic to like almost every fruit there is, like a lot of this like, on the shelf. Like any fruit you give me, I'm pretty much allergic to it. And then number 3, I love scary movies. Any horror films or scary movies, I love them.
Oh my goodness. And the award for worst cousin of the decade goes to Jeffrey Lee. Okay, I have no idea.
But I did good.
I have no idea. The allergy thing,
I think that's true. I remember Karen saying that she was allergic to like some type of fruits, but I don't know if she doesn't like it or because she doesn't like a lot of vegetables.
So I just say I'm allergic to it. Yeah, that's true too.
huh?
What are some of the fruits you're allergic to?
Apple, grapes, kiwi, pineapple, watermelon, melon, cantaloupe.
Are
any-
you also allergic to telling the truth?
No, sometimes.
Huh.
Another thing is the ballerina thing. I'm not too sure because
The
when I
ballet.
first met Karen, she was like this tiny and she was like a hardcore skier. So she's kind of a tomboy. She was this tiny. She was like, Annie, nobody would go on the ski mountain with me. I want to go on Black Diamond or something like that. I was like, this girl's crazy.
I swear, as I got older, that confidence went down.
Karen was so cute back then.
I know. I was
That's
like,
so
wow, this
About
girl
Karen
is
back
really
then.
hardcore.
I was so excited, and nobody would go with me. I was so mad.
Yeah, she was mad.
I was like, if no one's gonna go, I'll just go by myself.
Well, good thing that you didn't because you're still here today.
I'm still here.
What was the last one?
That I love scary movies, like any horror films or Fright Fest. Those like scary stuff.
Have you watched Parasite?
No, I've been meaning to though.
Ooh.
Okay.
Huh.
Number 3's a lie.
What are some of your favorite horror films? Scary
Mm,
movies.
I think the classic ones. I don't know the classics. The ones that a lot of people know, like Halloween or Texas Chainsaw. Those like ones that like you always see on FX like movie marathons. I used to watch it growing up with my cousins a lot. So we used to just like binge watch it at night.
Is that true, Jeffrey Lee?
Not with me.
Different era,
Not with
different
me.
generation
I was not
cousin.
invited to that. There was no Zoom meetings back then.
Hey, what's the thing at Six Flags? The
Fright Fest.
Fright Fest.
Have you ever gone to Fright Fest
Yeah, I've gone twice, I believe.
with Tom and Tiff?
Tom and Tiff, and then the second time was with Uncle Anderson.
Did you like it? How was it?
Oh, it was really nice. It was really fun because like, it's unexpected. You think that like, because a lot of people go into Fright Fest thinking like, oh, I'm not gonna get scared. I already know people are in costumes running around, but you actually can't tell because during Fright Fest, some people who take it more seriously, they go to a Six Flags dressed in costume. So some of them are just people walking around being regular, and then
True.
some are like actually they're like hired to scare you. So they come out of anywhere. You never know who they are. They're
Do you
just,
like it? Do you like the scare?
yeah, like every time we're walking and then they just like come out of anywhere, like it's always so funny because like I'm walking with somebody and then they just start like screaming and then we like it's so unexpected, so it's like really fun.
What is your favorite moment in a horror movie?
In a
Any-
horror movie,
Yeah.
the suspense part where it's like
I mean, scene,
Like,
specific scene. Like, is there a
specific
specific
scene?
scene that,
I guess
that always sticks with you?
one scene I specifically remember because we were so young and we're watching Halloween was the part where he was, I think his name was Jason. He was coming.
It's number 3.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, finish. Go ahead.
Oh no, his name was Michael. See, I haven't watched these in so long.
Uh-huh.
I think his name was Michael. And then he was coming after his sister, one of the characters, and then she kept hurting him. Like she tried shooting him, she tried stabbing him, and then it didn't work. And I was just like so confused. I'm like, what? Like, is he like invincible? Because scary movies aren't supposed to be superheroes. They're like kind of people too. But then one thing I do like about the scary movies was kind of how like they have a moment where they kind of make you feel for the character too. So in Halloween, I like it because they give you the backstory on why this happened to him first, or why he became the way he did. So it kind of makes you feel like bad for the character, even though they're the
feel
ones.
like you're invested.
Yeah, it makes you
know
feel
why?
like you see why they're doing what they do, even though it's not
You
right.
feel like you're the one getting stabbed and shot at.
I feel it. I feel it through the screen.
Oh, did you watch Get Out?
Yeah, I watched Get Out, but that one wasn't really like scary. I feel like it was more,
Yeah.
EP.
yeah, statement, kind of like.
Hey, that type of movie is kind of relevant to what we're talking about today.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I would not be surprised if something like Get Out actually does happen.
I feel like
Maybe
it does.
not the transferring, spoiler alert, but there are some people who are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs up there.
But I also feel
Yeah.
like Jordan Peele did that kind of like trying to like drag the truth, but it is the truth. Like some people do get like taken and they're convinced like, oh, Black people are bad, don't follow them, they're this way, like kind of like to steer clear, kind of put them in a trance, but like actually do that by like brainwashing them.
For the other groups.
Ballet.
Ballet.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I don't know.
how
I
old were
guess
you?
I was young, probably like 6 or like around 8-ish. So it's kind of like during the time when I asked my mom and stuff, and then she'll be like, oh, it's too late. Like people who do that, like they do it when they're younger. So like they build into it and they get used to it. And she used to tell me like, oh, you're not gonna like it. The ballerinas, it's not as pretty as they look on like TV. Their toes bleed. Their foot has to be like an upright angle. Your foot's gonna be in so much pain. But it wasn't just because of like the costumes, because I don't really mind for the costumes stuff, because like it was cute. But I liked how like the dance was. I liked like the movements. I don't know, like it was like so intriguing to me. Like everyone did dance, but I always found ballet to be like so interesting just to watch and like to do itself.
What was your first experience with it? How did you come across it?
I think probably because I saw it like on Barbie or something. I don't remember, but I saw it and then I saw her dancing. That wasn't like a real life ballerina one, but then I saw it and that's when I first started like, oh, it looks so nice. When we were younger, me and my cousin would always just like mess around. So if we're doing anything, we'll pretend we'll start turning like, oh look, we're ballerinas now. Like, oh look, we're this. And then whenever we pretended to be like ballerinas in the basement, I always found it like actually fun. And when I did it, I always like thought I was actually doing a ballerina move. And then I'll be like, Mom, look. And then she'll be like, ballerinas don't dance like that. I'm like, okay. That just killed my dream.
Okay. I'm ready to lock in, guys. Are you guys ready?
I think it's number 3.
Yeah.
I think
so
it's number
too.
3 also. When Karen was sharing why she likes it, all I can hear is, guys, I'm not mafia. If I was mafia, why would all right, we all say number 3, Karen. Tell us we got
I feel like it's harder because it is number 3. I hate scary movies.
Yes.
I hate scary movies.
Oh man.
Yeah.
If you have
And she didn't watch Parasite.
I didn't watch Parasite.
The thing
Not
is,
a fan.
if you're a fan and then you can only say Halloween or stuff, those weren't even good.
Such a long time ago.
horror movies.
But those are actually the movies. Oh, that and like Chucky. Those were actually the movies that I watched growing up that made me hate scary stuff because it scarred me for life. Like it was so bad.
We didn't drag you upstairs, right, and scare you. That was only Alex and Alex.
Yes, you did. There was a grandma's room. They were like, "Oh, I got you a birthday present." I was like, "Where?" They dragged us into grandma's room and then turned off all the lights. It was so scary. I hated it.
Oh my god.
It was the worst.
Lesson in self-preservation. You are welcome.
Thank you.
What did you want to say to your classmates and also to Professor Herzog?
A lot of people like to say, oh, it's 2020, it's not going to happen, or it's 2020, like this is this now. I feel like even though it is 2020, there's still a lot of things that we've worked so hard and long for that's still present and relevant to today's society. Overall, honestly, it does suck to see your own people, or even not your own people, being like abused in today's world when everything should be like kind of like a given, but I guess it's not given to most people.
I want to make a very bad vision joke. You know, it's 2020, year 2020. Guys, open your eyes. See
Yeah.
clearly.
We have enough
Yeah.
things going on in our lives right now.
You don't need to add
Maybe
racism.
we do not need racism.
Yeah.
We don't need it, but it's something that you can't avoid. Because we're living in America, there's always some form of barrier.
Okay, so what made me see this or understanding was the census, the recent census. I saw that like my boyfriend, he like got a notice that was like, oh, you didn't do the census yet. Fill it out. We know you didn't do the census yet. And I've been telling him all month, I'm like, go fill out your census. It takes 10 minutes, not that hard, just fill it out. And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And he just never does it. So I saw the mail. I was like, you still didn't do your census. I was like, you still didn't do it. That made me realize at that moment why I guess a lot of Americans, like white people, hate immigrant people. Even if we're not immigrant, even if we're born here, I could sense why they get so mad, because census are important, whereas they help our community a lot. But if you have a big community of people who speak like a different language, they're not going to know that census matter or care for it, so they're not going to fill it out. So your community is losing their whole funds and budget because that community doesn't know any better. So then when I saw
True.
that, I was like, that
But
makes
that's also true for Americans nowadays in general. I just think people don't give a F, to be honest.
and but
It
like
doesn't
in
matter.
general,
You
yeah,
just
but
get
then
something that's important and it's just like, whatever. Even things like taxes. People, if they can push it off, they're gonna push it off. They're
they're
not
gonna
gonna
push
do
it
it.
out. But you also
So,
see like a lot of
I
people
don't know.
like white, like I don't want to like put it into a specific one, but like a lot of American like or white people, they take stuff like the census, voting, they take it a lot more seriously because they know it's for the country. They know it's their country that they're living in, how it's gonna benefit. So a lot of white people take it more like, oh, this is what we need to do to give back. So there was like obviously not real, it was a show, but then it kind of like depicted the reality where this mom, she volunteered at the polls to help people vote, and she died because of like something going on. And then she was like, oh, my mom strongly believed in helping out the community and the future of our nation by helping at the polls. And that made me realize like people, like you see a lot of people volunteering at like polls or voting election areas. They volunteer because they believe in like how powerful a vote can be. So if they're going to take the time to do that, it makes me realize that like they take like things like voting and census a lot more seriously versus people like we probably wouldn't know, like we probably wouldn't care about it.
Part of the issue is probably systemic. I think the infrastructure is just very bad in terms of like maybe our parents were not taught to care about this stuff. So growing
Yeah.
up, we don't care about this stuff. There's part of that. There's education systems. As we can tell, a lot of the infrastructures that we have in place, they suck. They
Yeah, we're not
really,
taught
really
this.
suck. Look at our healthcare industry. Like we were not prepared for this, even though Trump was saying, yeah, pointy fingers, but we had a 2 to 3 month head start. Look at Taiwan. Look at South Korea. Like what the hell? There's no way that we can be so boastful and then we are the most advanced country, blah 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 blah, and we can't even take care of ourselves and
Yeah.
in our healthcare industry. So you're right, a lot of our infrastructure is totally messed up, is not right at all. It could be a systemic issue. It's just in a weird way, this pandemic sucks, but I'm glad that it's letting people at least observe and take a look at some of the stuff that's wrong with our culture and our structures that we have in place. So that's another totally different
Topic
discussion
thing.
that we can go
I
on
honestly do
forever.
see the systemic part because like what you said, like my friend, when this first thing happened, even so, he kept like calling me and saying like, oh, do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to go for a jog? Do you want to go eat this? And I was like, do you not understand there's a pandemic going on? You stay home. And then he was like, oh, people are gassing it up. It's not as serious as it is. And then that night, I like kind of ignored his text because I was like annoyed. But then I couldn't sleep. So then I got up and I was texting him back. And I was like, do you realize how stupid you sound? Like, we're in a pandemic. And yeah, you're bored at home. So you want to go out and do stuff. But do you not see the facts? Taiwan is like so close to China, where Wuhan started, the virus supposedly started. And yet, a country this close to the origin of the virus has less deaths than America, where we're so far away. And I was trying to explain to him, I'm like, do you not see how we're so far from China? Yeah, New York is being hit the most. We have more deaths than anywhere around. And places like Taiwan, where they did the lockdown, everyone listened to the government, everyone stayed in, everyone followed, like abided by everything. And they kept the virus contained, not contained officially, like fully, but they kept it where they didn't have to deal with so many deaths around their own country. And I was telling him, I was like, do you not see, like, this is, if you think it's still being gassed up and like exaggerate it. Just look at the facts for yourself. And then he was like, you're right, I'm sorry.
I think it has to do with experience too. I don't think United States experience does have a lot of experience with this kind of stuff as well. Asian countries, like they experience like MERS and all the other viruses more frequently, and they're more prepared, a better understanding as a society.
Yeah, and here
Uh,
we're just fat and lazy, so we're definitely not able to cope with that.
and we don't have much experience.
So going back to that article from the Atlantic, when they're talking about racial contracts, and this is also a systemic problem that we just brought up right now, and I'll read you this paragraph from there. So the implied terms of the racial contract are visible everywhere for those willing to see them. A 12-year-old with a toy gun is a dangerous threat who must be met with lethal force. Armed militias drawing beads on federal agents are heroes of liberty. So it's a little bit weird. 12-year-old with a toy gun, you have to respond with lethal force. Continuing on, struggling white farmers in Iowa taking billions in federal assistance are hardworking Americans down on their luck. But struggling single parents in cities using food stamps are welfare queens. So there's already a racial divide there as well. Black Americans struggling in the cocaine epidemic are a bio underclass created by a pathological culture. White Americans struggling with opiate addiction are a national tragedy. So there's already misrepresentation in the media. Okay, continuing on. Poor European immigrants who flocked to America with virtually no immigration restriction came the right way. Poor Central American immigrants evading a unforgiving system are gang members and terrorism. So it's so weird how we label stuff and how we see it. Some of this stuff, you don't even know who's writing it and if they have a certain bias towards these group of people. Even the term that we talked about before with Karen, the yellow peril, you came up with that term because China and America had a lot of racial tensions, and it's us against them. And I don't want to get too crazy right now and talk about conspiracy theories, but even today, there's a lot of racial tensions. Who knows? Like, what if down the line, we do go to war? God forbid, knock on wood, if we do go to war with China, what's going to happen? A lot of us are going to be in trouble, even if we're born and raised Chinese Americans here. What if we get, I was talking to Tam about this, my sister Tammy, and she was saying like, it's just going to be like the Japanese Americans during World War II. We're probably going to be put into internment camps.
Yeah, that's so
born
scary.
And raised here, having a child that was born and growing up here, and you're gonna be forced to live in an internment camp.
Where do we go? Because they're not going to accept us here nor in China.
Taiwan.
Let's go to Taiwan.
Let's go to Taiwan. That's it. We'll hang out with Eddie Huang in Taiwan.
It doesn't even matter about the person or what they do. It's kind of like just based off your skin color, like heavily, because like actually right before this, it was randomly on my YouTube suggestions. I was like exposing Fox News, how the way they treated Melania Trump as the first lady versus the way they were treating Michelle Obama when she was the first lady. And they were disrespecting her so much on national news. Now you have Melania, who's like known for like kind of like copying what Michelle Obama is doing, or like basically plagiarizing her speech, and yet they're talking so highly about her, how she's such a great person. It's so double standard.
The point is also, James, if today, God forbid, we got jumped or getting beat up, they're not going to take an extra 5-10 seconds to ask you, oh, are you Chinese? They don't care. They're still going to keep beating on you.
Because he already looks the part.
It's a crazy time, man.
We don't have a true media company where just the facts,
Escape from Plan A. Go check out that podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think that wraps up for us. Any shout outs you want to do, Karen?
No, shout out to my professor. Thank you for giving me this assignment, because I actually really enjoyed it and doing my research, and it's actually refreshing to just read about our history and then compare it to like society right now.
And also, thank you, Karen, for being our 50th subscriber.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. You know it is.
We did. thank you for coming on the show
Yeah.
again. And
Thank
bringing
you for
on this
helping me.
topic. It was something that I definitely wanted to talk about. I'm glad that we got to explore it a little bit.
Me too.
We definitely could have dove in even deeper, but I'm happy with how it turned out.
Thank you for
Big
coming.
topic. Honestly, I feel like we'll be going on for hours.
Okay, guys. So before we sign off, go check out Halloween. Go check out Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, let us know what is the best scene and what have scared you during horror movies. And for Karen, make sure you go watch Parasite because you like horror movies.
So too.
All right, that's it for us, guys. Please stay safe out there. Be mindful of people around you, maybe not even in your own community. There are no rules or laws against supporting other people in other communities as well. So make sure you're kind. Just treat them like you would your friends or family, because at the end of the day, we are all humans and we are all living on the same earth. So keep that in mind. Don't forget to stay redonkulous. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, thanks. Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you.
It's the Jeff and Annie and James Redonkulous Show. Yeah.
Awesome.